you so much for being here. We really had a good time planning this panel. I do want to start with that. I think that Shira talked a lot about bonding, and I think that's what you guys have to share with us today.
Yeah, it's true. I think this is one of the most important topics that we can talk about, especially here at a big technology show, is how we use technology to reclaim personal time and, more importantly, family time, rather than just being about what the products are and what they do, the speeds and feeds, as they call it. I guess we're going to start now. My name is Dan Ackerman, and I am a reporter and editor for CNET. I think this is my 14th or 15th consecutive CES. It might be the first one I've experienced a rainstorm, and probably the first one I've experienced a gigantic blackout at the convention center. So as an added bonus, besides talking to all of us, you got to avoid the blackout, hopefully. We have a big panel here today, so we're going to squeeze in as much interesting stuff to talk about as we can, and we're definitely going to leave 10 or 15 minutes at the end for questions, because you guys especially, as I know from previous years, really have great questions, because you're in the industry, but you're also family people who are interested in how to use technology better to reclaim family time. So I'm going to very quickly, since we only have a little bit of time, run through who we have here. And then we're going to have a really fun discussion, I think. All the way on the end is Thad White. He's the Director of Product Management at Ooma. And I actually went over to Tech West and saw their booth just this afternoon. And they have a lot of smart home and security products. I think some very interesting stuff about geofencing, facial recognition cameras, and things like that. Next to him is Edward Hall. He's the CEO of Petrics, which is an app for pet health and pet food information. They've also got a smart pet bed that they introduced here. Next to him is Michael Dean, and he's from KidsConnect. He's the creator of the KC2 GPS tracker cell phone, specifically for kids, and I think that gives us an entry point to talk about. I think one of the top things I talk to other parents about is how you relate to children via phones, and when they can get a phone, and what level of technology is appropriate for them. And it's one of the things I end up talking to other parents to the most. Next to Michael is Stefanie Lemcke. She's the CEO of GoKid, which I described to her as I was asking her about her company as kind of a social media app meets a ride-sharing app. It's basically for arranging carpools between invited groups of parents, and I think a really useful way to use technology to solve a big parental problem, parent-to-parent communication, and we'll definitely talk a lot about that. And finally, at the end is Stacy Stusynski. She is the Director of Product for the SleepIQ technology division of Sleep Number. I also saw their big setup over at Tech West. I saw a lot of people relaxing on giant beds. I was very jealous. There was no room on any of the beds for me, so I just looked forlornly for a minute and then went on. And they track a lot of sleep data, which I think is super interesting, because we are inundated today with data about ourselves through health apps and tracking apps and wearables. How do we use that data? How is it useful to us? But I am going to go back to Thad at the very end to start our conversation, because if there's one theme at CES this year that everyone is talking about, it's smart home, it's Internet of Things, it's connected home, and Ooma's smart home and security products got me thinking at least about how this category is evolving so quickly, and how evolving smart home and smart security can make us feel secure, but how do you do it in a way that's easy enough to set up and use? How do we get it to give us time back rather than take time? And I asked Thad that question.
Great. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here. Some of you, if you recognize the name Ooma, may be saying to yourselves, wait, I thought Ooma was an internet phone service company. And that's sort of what we're best known for. We've been doing that for more than 10 years, and we have almost 1 million households using our product in the US and Canada. But what we realized a couple of years ago is that this device in the home can be used for a lot more, for security and for the family. And so we've been really focused on building out a security model that, as Dan said, is really easy to use. It's easy to set up yourself. There's no expensive installers that have to visit your home. It's easy to monitor yourself. We allow you to monitor doors opening and closing, motion in the home, cameras, smoke, all through a smartphone. We're the only alarm system that also lets you get phone call-based alerts for events in your home, such as intruders or smoke. And one of the things that we're excited to talk about here at CES that really applies to the family is geofencing. So, arming and disarming an alarm system, the old school model was you have a keypad on the wall and you enter and you start getting some loud obnoxious beep and you have to quickly enter a code before you lose time and the siren goes off. So with smartphones today and location tracking and GPS, it's pretty straightforward to automatically arm and disarm the security system based on your phone. And the coolest thing is it's not only one person's phone, it can be everyone in the family. So I'm a father of 3. I have 2 teenage kids who have cell phones. And so my wife and I both have it on our phones, and our teenagers have it. And anytime one of us comes and goes from the home, first of all, we see that, so we can see a log. And that's quite comforting as a parent to know that when your kids get home, when they leave, what's going on in the house. And then the last person to leave the house, the security system will arm, and the first person to come home, it disarms.
Now, let me ask you a question to that, because I think geofencing is so interesting, because I've seen this over the last couple of years in locks, in air conditioners and things. Do you think that's going to move into more smart home areas where we are in the house will track what turns on and off? Is that the next big wave?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really cool things. We haven't worked as much on home automation, but there's a lot of cool companies doing things like turning on lights when you get home, or starting your coffee maker in the morning when you get out of bed. I don't know if Sleep Number is doing that, but there's a lot of interesting uses.
And I think that everyone has, I think by a show of hands, I think probably almost everyone here has some form of smart home device, whether it's an Alexa or a Google Assistant or something else. I think everyone here probably has one, right? Everyone out there. So we're clearly moving quickly into this space. But we talked a lot about security, and that brings up what Michael works on, which is a phone specifically for kids to help parents feel more secure. One of the questions I get all the time is how young is too young to have a smartphone, and parents are worried about giving kids a full-featured phone with access to everything on the internet. How did you strike the balance between what the right age is to give a kid a phone-type product, what the balance is between what features to include and not include, and how do you tell parents that rather than a hand-me-down phone for their kid, they should use this very specific device that's tailored for children?
Well, with parents, that's the biggest question I get too, is what's the right age to give my kid a cell phone? And then the biggest worries with smartphones are, if my kids get on social media, what can happen? What's going to happen if they get on one of these apps and people, they start chatting with strangers? And I get phone calls 4 or 5 times a week. Does your phone have a camera? No. Great, so my 14-year-old girl can stop sending dirty pictures to 19-year-old boys. I said, absolutely. So, they take the phones away from them, and then they say to them, I can't get in touch with my kid. I don't know what to do. I don't know where they are, because they've taken away their iPhone. They've lost that privilege. And they love these because our phones, the geofencing, their safety, they can only dial the numbers the parents put in. It's a tracker, everything that they need for basic communications. And we always tell a parent, you don't want to start your kid off with a smartphone where you can't supervise them. And also, they're expensive. Our phone is reasonably priced. And you give it to a kid, and they learn the responsibility of having a phone. They can make a phone call, they can send a text message, and receive calls from the numbers the parents program only, so it keeps them safe.
So how young would you give a kid one of your phones?
I got 4-year-olds with them.
Okay. And what age would you think it's appropriate to transition them? And I'm interested to hear if anyone else has, who, especially as a parent, has an opinion on this. What's the age that they could transition to a more full-featured phone? I heard recently from a parenting expert that when a kid is old enough to walk to school by themselves, that's the age that's okay. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
My kids walked to school because we lived across the street from school when they were 6, and we watched them walk across the street.
So it
no,
may
that's
not apply in
acceptable.
that case.
I usually say 12 or 13 years old. A smartphone with parental control apps, because there are apps out there to help them monitor what their kids do and see what they're doing. That's a good age to let them do that. These other phones, you want to monitor what they do in the house. Let them take this phone and go out, so if there's an emergency, they can call home. And when they get home, hand them their phone that's hooked up to the Wi-Fi in the house. You don't get a big bill, or an iPad. You can watch what they're doing. You want to use this stuff, you want to go on apps, do it on the couch where I can see you, not in your room.
Do any of the other parents on the panel have an opinion on what the proper age to give a kid a full-fledged smartphone is?
Yeah, I think it's a good criteria. I mean, when they're coming and going from the home by themselves, it's important. I feel better as a parent. It happened to be at about age 12 for my 2 daughters. I find a lot of our peers are doing the same. But I think it's a great idea, if a younger kid who doesn't need a smartphone, I mean, if buying smartphones for kids is not cheap, and so more economical options that allow them just to call home or just to call people in an emergency, it's a great idea.
According to the FBI, there's 800,000 children reported missing every year. That's a child every 40 seconds. That doesn't mean they were kidnapped. It means they got off at the wrong bus stop and the parents didn't know where they were, so they called the police. They fell down on their bike and they couldn't get back home. They got, anything. The ball game got rained out and they missed their ride. They got stuck at the whatever. 800,000 children a year. This could help prevent that, because one, you can find out where they are by looking at the app.
Specifically the GPS tracker.
GPS tracker, and two, they can call up and say, "Mom, I got off at the wrong stop. I'm 3 blocks away, and can you come get me?"
Right, which helps you in the situation that I see a lot of people in, where they give the kids a hand-me-down cell phone where the service is turned off. It still works on Wi-Fi, and they can play Pokemon Go on it. They can play those endless runner games. But when they're outside, it doesn't have a signal, and that doesn't help you. And that doesn't help you with that.
Exactly.
But kids coming and going, that's a great transition to talk to Stefanie about GoKid, which is basically a ride-sharing app for carpools, a little bit social media, a little bit Uber ride-sharing type app, and it brought up to me a topic that I think about a lot these days, which is what I call parent-to-parent communication, which is an area where I think a lot of parents need help reducing friction and finding help, because whether it's planning carpools or school assignments or play dates, I think there's a lot of areas where parents could use more help communicating with other parents. So I would ask Stefanie, how did you and your team decide that carpooling and ride sharing was the right entry point to helping parents communicate with each other? How did that become the friction point that you wanted to solve?
Yeah, first of all, I was solving my own problem building this company. So I moved with my family from the city, from New York City, to the suburbs. And in the city, we didn't even own a car. We walked to school. Out in Connecticut, a lot of times we needed to drive because there were early orchestra practices or later pickups from school. And as a working parent, it was really tough to do that. So I reached out to neighbors and we organized just shared riding, which parents in the US have been doing for many, many years. It's not that we are reinventing this. But it was very hard to organize. So there was a lot of text messaging going on, and can you go? Oh, I can't, I'm in the city, can you? So in the middle of meetings, you get these messages like, oh my God, no one is organizing this. And because I've worked in innovation and technology for the past 10 years, I said, someone must have thought about this, and there must be an app for this. And I searched the App Store and tried everything that there was, but it wasn't working. So I was envisioning it must be an Uber-like model where you see where your kids are, where there's a schedule, you know who's driving, but there wasn't. So I thought someone has to fix that. And we started building a product and got into a program called Techstars Mobility out of Detroit, which is a startup program. And we learned more about the industry, about mobility. And we found out that 50% of all schools in the US no longer have buses. 32 million kids are being driven to school every single day by their parents. So the time spent for parents is really the main problem we're solving. And then it is the communication with other parents in setting it up and knowing whose turn it is to drive and getting notifications that your child has been picked up and dropped off. So all of these experiences, and it's an invitation-based model. We are not hiring drivers, so it's not Uber or Lyft. It's still the parents doing the drives, but it is in a secure way, and you see the schedule, and you get all the notifications tied to that.
So the parents within your circle are the ones doing the actual driving, just like traditionally, you just put it up on the refrigerator and say, Monday it's this family, Tuesday it's that family. How do people, I'm curious, how do families find and connect with each other through that?
That's a great question. So the first app we brought out is based on the factor that you only want to carpool with parents you know and trust. And so it's invitation-based. You send, similar to an Evite or paperless post, when you invite others to your birthday party, you only want to have your friends there. So you invite the contacts you already have in your phone. But then we realized the big problem with school and after school, and we went into schools and we did pilots, and then the parents loved it and said, I really want to use your technology, but I don't know who to carpool with, because every year the classes have changed, the after-school activities change, and we're like, yeah, we're missing a piece here. So we built an extra technology for schools and teams called GoKid Connect. And what that does, we get the database from schools and teams, and so you can filter who lives close by, and you can filter by grades and then reach out. But it's still parent-to-parent communication, and not the school does the matching, or we don't do the matching. So it's very important, because these are your kids. It's the most precious thing you have. You don't want to have a stranger drive your kids. So that's the assumption. And now what we're doing, we're really building an ecosystem. We're going into partnerships. We just this week announced a partnership with TeamSnap. TeamSnap is one of the largest sports scheduling technologies with over 15 million users. And they schedule all the after-school teams. And what it does, we can now set up carpools for specific teams. You go into our app, and then it asks you, are you part of a TeamSnap carpool? If you answer yes, you see the parents who are in your kid's soccer team, and you can reach out to them and carpool. So we call it always a trusted network, and we set up the technology within these trusted networks.
And that data comes from the groups that are organizing the group sports.
This data
and they
specifically comes from TeamSnap, and the parents have put that in.
Have signed up and provided the information,
Yeah.
and they share it with you. I think it's so interesting as someone who deals with a lot of parent-to-parent communication issues. That's a big problem. I definitely see, as someone who has not moved to the suburbs yet, I don't have to worry about carpooling, but there's so many other areas where it's so interesting, especially with organizing who's going to after-school activities and which activity, and setting up play dates and birthday parties. Are there other areas of this, what I'm calling parent-to-parent communication, that you think your company could help with, or for other people on the panel, are there pain points that you think somebody should invent, maybe you guys should invent an app that can help with that? What are your parent-to-parent communication pain points?
Well, a lot of, I don't know if you, a lot of times it is about the parent and child communication and knowing that your child is safe. So we have a child account and a parent account too. So similar to you, the child has very limited features what they can do. They cannot organize their own carpools, but they can see who's picking them up, and so that's important. And we're also moving into cars. This is one area we hear now we are integrating into the automotive sets. So that's we're very excited about that, and the OEMs are super excited, because families will still be purchasing cars in the future. You have a lot of mobility needs with families.
And forgive me if I don't know this, is there a way to track the location of the car?
Yes, it's based on your phone, so the phone is the tracking system. And so we're integrating with technologies that does the tracking.
I see some similar themes here in a lot of things we're talking about, keeping track of where kids and family members are, providing a sense of security, a trusted group of people together, and that goes through Ooma, through the KidsConnect phone, through your app. Switching gears a little bit, though, to what we do after we track everybody down and we know where they all are. There's nothing more important, and I can tell you this as a 14-year CES veteran, nothing more important than a good night's sleep. And Stacy, of course, works with Sleep Number and their SleepIQ, which tracks and collects a tremendous amount of data. I've read the number before, and it just went right over my head, and she just reminded me, it's something like 4 billion data points per day? Per night. And of course, everyone wants to know, how do we sleep better? Is it more important for the kids to sleep better, or the parents, or both? How does this tie into the current trends in health tracking, which seems to be what everyone is very interested in today?
Right. So as Dan was saying, Sleep Number is collecting 4 billion biometric data points per night. So that's a very large sleep study, if you put it into perspective. And through the SleepIQ technology and the way in which the users choose to kind of interact with it, you don't have to do anything, and we know you're in bed. And so all you have to do is sleep. And to your point earlier, we collect a lot of data, but big data is only relevant if you can make it small. If you make it small, it has to be individualized. And so the key to that is learning you and understanding how we help you sleep better every night. And I'll give you a great example. My whole family sleeps on SleepIQ technology, and we've actually been able to use it to have the right conversations. Sleep is the center of health and wellness, and people are now really paying attention to, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to my family? And in my case, we were able to create routines for my children at night where we're able to teach them the right behaviors and the importance of a routine, and provide them with a SleepIQ score in the morning. And my SleepIQ score before I left home was an 86, and my daughter's won a 98. The reason I know that is because it's become a competition. My kids wake up in the morning, grab their iPods, run downstairs, and really want to know, how did I sleep? How did I compare to your sleep? Another example is, really being able to ensure that through what you do in the day, how does that impact you every night? And so for me, I'm a Fitbit user. I've connected my Fitbit to my SleepIQ system. I know when I do a long run, I actually have a slightly elevated resting heart rate all night long. And that's because I might have overtrained. And so through that, I make different choices on, maybe I won't have that glass of wine before I go to bed after a long run, because it'll even make it worse and I won't sleep as well. And really being able to unlock the power of knowing better sleep through the SleepIQ platform, and just enabling for that user to know that when they go to bed, their bed knows them. The 360 smart bed is the ability for it to adjust to you all night long. I never have to think about setting my bed. It knows my routine. I've set up a set it and forget it scenario. I don't have to, the stress of the night. Anyone with children, nighttime's really easy, right? No, it's a struggle. And so through the use of good routines, and even on the days where it's not great, I know my bed is ready for me, and it's going to adjust. So when I'm tossing and turning all night, the smart bed adjusts with me, and I don't have to worry about getting a good night's sleep because it helps me do it.
How does, just so I understand a little bit better, how does the bed tracking, what exactly is the bed tracking, and then sharing the information with the SmartIQ ecosystem?
Yeah, so through the Sleep Number product, it's collecting your heart rate, respiration, movement, and presence, and it understands what's your normal. So through the learning algorithm, it learns you and it understands what your normal is, and then provides you with that insight in the morning. And so it does it through the pressure sensors within the Sleep Number technology, and has the ability to really know you over time. So it's leveraging the platform within the bed.
I was going to ask, you have to wear anything? Is there a wearable of any time? It's all
There's
built
nothing you wear,
into
there's
the bed.
nothing you turn on.
I have over the years experimented with various kinds of sleep tracking devices that people have sent me to try out, and they often used to involve, years ago, strapping some gigantic thing on. And I think that the biggest impediment was sticking with it for more than 1 or 2 nights in a row. And that's what I think leads a lot of people to step away from this potentially very useful data collection, is the fact that it's too much trouble. And that's why I think we have simpler trackers now, where people just use the pedometer built into their phone.
Right.
You talk about competing, kind of gamifying the experience. That's the one example I can think of where I do that, is we all pull out our phone to go, how many steps did you take today? Because we all carry these trackers with us, basically pedometer trackers.
Yeah.
And of course, I think I hit 12,000 steps on Saturday. That wasn't great, but it was okay. I feel like I'm doing all right. But with all the data that you collect, that brings up a big question I think we all have about all the health trackers and all the wearables and all the, I guess, liables, sleepables version of this. So much information, so many useful insights. But how do we get the best information? And this is important for our theme of reclaiming our personal time and our family time. How do companies and individuals figure out how to take all that data and all that information and push to you, and I think this is important, push to you the important insights that you need to see and absorb without burying you in a mountain of data that's probably very interesting and useful, but I don't have time for it, you don't have time for it. How do we find that balance between practical and too much?
Yeah, so I think the first is, just to go back to your point, is wearables require you to put something on and start it. And the process and the power of the Sleep Number fully adjustable bed and the SleepIQ technology platform is all you have to do is sleep. There's nothing to wear, there's nothing to put on. So your data is being collected for you with you having to do nothing. So over time, we don't lose those data nights where you forgot to start it, or you forgot to track your Fitbit or charge it. We know when you're in bed, and we're able to collect that information and really help to learn the behavior. What does your nighttime routine look like? When do you go to bed? When do you wake up? Do you have frequently in and out of bed? And so the key for where we really play is we learn your routines and we understand how to customize it. And over time, you connect. So connecting through the Fitbit is right now, we can understand what you did during the day and what you're doing at night, and we make it very pointed about your sleep. We don't want to inundate you with data that's not relevant to sleep. We're a sleep company. And the other piece to that is also ensuring that when you do get information, it's meaningful. And so a data point that we like to share is when you have connected one of your personal devices to the SleepIQ technology platform, we have almost 100% engagement, which is pretty high compared to majority of others that have the ability to connect. And so I think that's a testament to our ability to find the data and figure out those data points and provide you with what is actually meaningful to you.
What advice does the SleepIQ system give me the next morning or after several mornings? Like, what could it tell me to change about what I'm doing to sleep better?
Yeah, so I'll use a really good example of one when one of our partner opportunities is with Nest. So if we know that your bedrooms and your home environment is 98 degrees, and we notice over time, maybe you didn't set your air conditioning and your temperature has gone up, we can give you the insight of, you were a little bit less restful last night, but your temperature was higher. And so we try to take those data sets that take a whole bunch of information and compress that to kind of that meaningful bite of information in those 7 words that are really going to resonate with you.
That reminds me of some, the entire concept makes me think of some pitches and some products that I've seen over the last year or two that are attempting to merge technology with meditation, which is such a hot topic right now. I even did a VR meditation article not that long ago where I tried all these different, put on the full vibe, the entire thing, and then you're in some peaceful situation listening to a guided meditation. And I talked to a meditation expert, a guy named Dan Harris, who wrote a very popular book about it, and he said, well, if you're wearing the VR headset, you're supposed to be closing your eyes while you're meditating. It doesn't do any good to have a serene beach in front of you. If you're looking at it, then maybe you're not doing it right. At long last, I want to talk to Edward Hall about Petrics because many of us have pets, and frankly, they can take up a lot of our time with good things, but also things like the pet's health and taking care of the pet. And I had this situation last year with an elder cat who, spoiler alert, is still with us, but had some severe medical problems last year. And I spent a lot of time on tracking how much food she was eating and what kind of food I should give her. And she had kidney problems, and there's very specific things you need to do for that. And I did what everyone does, whether it's a pet health problem or a human health problem. I turned to what we call Dr. Internet. And every piece of advice I found online was contradicted by another piece of advice from another website. And frankly, a lot of people who run pet blogs seem a little kooky. So that's why I was excited that Edward has in his Petrics app not just pet health and information tracking, but also a lot of tie-ins to nutrition and food and how much you should feed your pet. Tell me a little bit about how you and your team put this product together to make, I don't want to say make owning a pet more efficient, but frankly, make owning a pet more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. We really have 3 customers. We built this system with veterinarians in mind and service professionals that are looking for accurate data, because it's hard for them to do their job when you can only give them very vague responses to how's their diet, how's their exercise. As a pet owner, it's really tough to kind of know that. And then for the pet owners, we really had to build products that were conducive to them and didn't really interfere with their schedules, but allowed for a lot of that passive automation of healthcare. And then for the pets themselves, they have to be able to use it and it can't obstruct them. And so we really focused on building a product that could allow you to meet what your vet might not be telling you, but they go crazy trying to enforce the importance of keeping your pet in their ideal weight zones and the costs of that. Right now we have 53% of cats and dogs in the US are overweight and obese. And the studies have shown that it can reduce the average life expectancy by at least 2.5 years. Now, if you love your pets, you want them to live longer, right? And so we wanted to build this system to help pet owners be as good of a pet owner they could be without having to change that. So when a vet says you need to exercise them more, well, it's tough to do that if your schedule doesn't permit it. Or you need to change this diet, and now we need to know if it's working. So I need you to weigh your pet every 2 weeks now for me. Okay, it's tough to get a pet on a scale. You can pick them up, but you start asking for a lot of things and it becomes difficult. So with our system, we've developed the world's first smart pet bed that actually tracks your pet's weight and also does heating and cooling for climate control, because every breed is different. Everything's subjective there. You have a long-haired dog, if you have golden retrievers, you might notice that they like to sleep or lay on the tile floor in your kitchen, and they're obstructing your path when you're trying to cook, and they move every 10 minutes. That's because they're trying to stay cool, where you might be comfortable at 72 degrees, but they wear a full bodysuit of fur, and it's easy to forget that. So it also helps with medical conditions. So if you have a geriatric pet, like your cat, for instance, their bones ache, right? So warmer temperatures can really help with that. And even on the cooling side, being able to thermostatically adjust for the cooling can help with recovery of injuries, muscle aches, if you have an athletic or working dog. And then being able to tie in, like with Nest and other smart home, connected home products, knowing those ambient temperatures is really helpful, because now we know your breed of dog. You have a long-haired dog, not a short-haired, or whatever the temperature might be. We can actually start adjusting that bed to get them in their ideal zones and how much rest they're getting. And on top of it, it comes with an activity tracker. So we use that as the identification for the pet. So if you have multiple pets, you can use one bed. And when they approach the bed, it knows that Fluffy's in the bed, and this is Fluffy's weight, and sends that data to the application for you. It'll also know what Fluffy's ideal temperature zone might be based on their breed. And then the activity side, knowing how many steps and how many calories they're actually burning on a daily basis, combined with us knowing how much nutrition and calories they're intaking, as well as what their weight is, and based on their breed and life stage, what weight zone they should be. That allows us to get a really good snapshot of the health, and then you can report that information with your veterinarians, which they will appreciate very much, because they want to do their job effectively and efficiently. So tying all that in, and then having the nutrition application there to help where a lot of the biggest core problems in the pet industry start at the nutrition side and the implementation and management.
And that's what I was most interested in talking to you when we were talking before about was the nutrition side, and especially the help in figuring out, based on your pet's weight and condition and age and medical issues, how the actual how much you should feed them, because after 16 plus years, I still don't know. When the little bowl is empty and the cat is looking at me, I just give her some more, and I feel like that's okay. But I'm clearly not taking a scientific approach to this. And my second question is, hopefully your new smart pet bed is so good I can finally convince the cat, after, again, 16 years, to not sleep on top of my face every night. If you have that product, I will buy one today. But tell me a little more, very briefly, about the activity tracker part of it. Is it a separate device, or is it something that's built into the bed, or something you clip on?
Yeah, so the tracker, one of the things we've noticed in the tracker side for pets, one is the gamification side. I think Stacy put it beautifully, is that you really got to look at that side of it. You can't just offer healthcare. It's not enough of a value. So you really got to incorporate these other elements. But with the tracker, we wanted to make sure that it was universal, so that it attached to any existing collar, or if you had a harness, because harnesses are very popular now. But we didn't want to miss data points. We didn't want you to have to charge it every 2 weeks like other trackers, because I have to charge my phone, I have to charge my watch, I have to charge my headset, and I have to charge my dog. Like, it's like, you start to get into way too much stuff. And so we're like, no, here's a 5-month battery device that you can change every 5 months. You can change the battery out. You don't have to buy a whole new module. It's submersible, so you don't have to take it off when you're at the beach. We're just trying to make it very user-friendly in doing that with the tracking. Now, the other question you had was on the nutrition side, I think?
I want to give people a chance to ask some questions, and we'll give people a 1 or 2 minute warning to think of your cool questions, and we're going to address them all. But I think there's so many great themes that all of your companies have in common about finding ways for technology to add to the family experience and the personal experience rather than getting in the way. While people are thinking of their questions, I'm going to throw a question out at each of you, and I'll go first to give you a second to think of an answer. What technology, whether it's your own or someone else's, do you guys use and find very helpful in reclaiming family time or enhancing family time? I'll give you my example first, and then we'll just go down the row. I've discovered that Amazon's Echo ecosystem, to children, the voice of Alexa is like the voice of God to them. And if Alexa tells them something, they believe it. When you tell a kid, in 5 minutes, you have to turn off the TV, the iPad or something, go brush your teeth, whatever it is, and you say, okay, 5 minutes is up. They go, that wasn't really 5 minutes. You started the timer too early, or I have 30 seconds left. They don't trust you as a timekeeper. When you say, Alexa, set the timer for 5 minutes, and I've seen this with multiple kids, including my own, when that timer goes off at the end, they know Alexa will not lie to them. They just put down what they're doing and go, and that's it. And that is my greatest discovery as a parent. Kids trust Alexa. So that's mine. I'm going to start with Thad and go down the list.
Yeah, sure. So
give me a fun thing you like.
I have a funny story. My kids love Alexa too, and particularly the youngest, because he's at the bottom of the pecking order in kids, right? So he's always getting picked on, always getting told what to do. And Alexa is below him in the pecking order, right? He gets to boss her around, get to tell her what to do. So yeah, one theme that I just thought of as we were talking here that I think applies to a lot of us is, and a trend that I think can help families is AI and machine learning. So you talked about all the data you're getting from all these sensors, from your bed, from your pet, from whatever. And I'll just give you an example of how we try to help with that. So we just acquired a camera company called Butterfly, a smart camera, and it does facial recognition. Now, that's great, but you don't want to be notified every time there's motion in your home and every time there's a person walking through. So what they've done is built a smart facial detection feature that will alert you only when there's an unrecognized face. So it basically, you train it on the people who are in your home or your household. You can train it on other people who visit frequently, pet walkers, cleaning people, and then set it so that if it sees an unrecognized face, it alerts you, right? And that's really what you want to know about from a security perspective. And so, that's only kind of recently possible with a lot of machine learning tools that can be trained. And I think that could apply to sleep data, to pet data, and lots of others. So I look forward to AI and machine learning helping.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of growth, especially in facial recognition over the last couple of years. Edward, what technology do you use to enhance or create more family time?
So my family is so I have a cat right now. I no longer have a dog. I plan on getting another one, but I have two. I would say one was more of just a want in the beginning, and then I realized I started saving a lot of time with it. It was a smartwatch. I was like, it's so ridiculous. I don't really have to do that. I can just pull my phone out and check. But I'll tell you what, it's been so convenient to just check to see if I need to swipe away or check the message really fast and keep going. Those seconds add up every year, and I get hundreds of emails, a day, and so it really helps to do that. The other would be voice assistant technologies for connected homes. So I have both Google Home and Alexa, and it is nice to go, hey Alexa, set a timer, or hey Google, do this. And those little moments in your day that you really save, you don't realize how much it is, but now we're so fast in our day and age. Back in the day, you get a message to do something, it was on your answering machine, and you had to wait till you got home to get the message to finally get it out. I can do that, 1,000 times a day now and have stuff happening. So I would say those two, just really for efficiency.
I don't remember what life was like before we could talk to our light bulbs. What kind of world were we living in? I don't even know what the light switch is anymore. Michael?
Yeah, we talked about the assistants, the Alexa and the Google. My kids are older, they don't live in the house anymore, so my family time's different, but my grandson comes over every weekend, and he's born blind, so he's never seen in his life. And these have enhanced his ability to do things so much. For Christmas this year, I said, what do you want? He wanted 2 Echo Dots, so we could have one in his room at his mother's house, one in his room at his father's house. He wanted a Google Home Mini, and he wanted the new Alexa with the big speaker. Yeah. I bought like 5 Google Alexa things for him. And he talks to them all the time, and he loves it because it really helps him, because he can't see, to get his computer out, which talks. It's a lot of work, and it's really easy for him to do that. And he loves having Google talk to Alexa, and Alexa try to talk to Google. And, and he loves it. And his other thing he loves is the Waze, the GPS tracking. He can't see, and he doesn't know anything about what's out there. But I get in the car with him, he puts that Waze on, and he knows what road I'm on. And even if he doesn't have it on, because he's been doing it for so long, he knows what streets I'm on. I'm turning left on this street, turning right on that street. He loves it. And I tell you, navigation has made the world great for us, too, those especially Waze.
That was great, and that's I hope nobody from Amazon is here getting a swelled head at the fact that everyone's mentioning Alexa specifically. Stefanie?
So in terms of connecting families, my favorite tool is FaceTime because I travel a lot and I'm not at home, and my kids are not good on the phone. I mean, if you ask them, how was your day? And they're like, good. How was school? Good. But FaceTime changes that. I was in the cab coming from the convention hall, and I just FaceTime while I was sitting in the cab, showed them where I am, and they started talking, and we talked as if I was home. So I just, that for them, it's not so much, I mean, the physical presence is really there. And I would imagine with, you know, with newer technologies and how you can see and just the pixels that come out, the experience will be so immersive that at one point, even if you're not there, it just bonds you as a family more.
It's true, and growing up, stuff like FaceTime was considered science fiction, like the video phone. Right. Like, oh, they'll never have that, and now we just take it for granted. It's so much a part of our lives. Stacy?
Yeah, you know, I think the big one for me is Skype. You know, as a working mother and a 2-income household, both of us are working a lot, and the ability for us to have the flexibility to take back our time. I don't have to worry about where my meetings are or how they happen. They can take place. And you know, I think a testament is my daughter thinks she works at Sleep Number. She is part of the team. They know her by name. When the team comes over, they see her on the Skype, and she feels like she's a part of it. So it also teaches her the power of, you know, being a part in the professional world as well. So it kind of gives back in both directions in my world.
That's great. This is a really good collection of ideas, and I like all of these. We're going to have a couple of minutes for questions. I just want to say very briefly, everyone up here, you see their Twitter information right up there on this big slide in case you want to follow any of these fine people on Twitter. And I think we have a microphone sitting around in our last 5 minutes or so if anybody has a question they would like to ask one of our panelists.
Yeah. Anybody?
About reclaiming personal
Here we go.
time. Oh, here we go. And if the question is, what caused the blackout? The answer is, we were here. It's not our fault.
Right.
Here you go. Can you stand up so our photographer can see?
This isn't a very technical question, but when you were talking about FaceTime, I'm a Skype user, and I was wondering if there's some value to FaceTime as opposed to Skype?
It's a similar technology. I mean, you dial directly. It's the same concept. It's video communication.
The person you just have to be connected to the person through FaceTime. Is that it?
Yeah, and it's Apple-based, so obviously you need
Apple
built into
based.
the Apple phones.
yeah.
Okay, that explains it. Thanks.
I feel it's also a little easier to use on a personal level. It just, you click it and it works. Skype, for all its great benefits, the app can be a little messy sometimes, and they're always updating it and changing stuff. Every time I log into Skype, I feel like something is different about it. Once you become a Skype power user, it actually has a lot more features and it's a lot more powerful.
And it's part of your phone application. You can just go
Yeah.
immediately while you're on your phone. You don't have to go
If you have
into
an
an app. That's the.
But I've been using Skype all week for like media hits, basically beaming into different TV stations for people who don't have crews here. So Skype is super useful for that also. It's much more of a professional platform. FaceTime, I think, is more personal. Do we have any more questions? I see a question. I see two over here.
Can you raise your hand and stand up? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thad, I wanted to ask a question regarding the geofencing and the phones. Whereas the devices are allowing and denying access because of the presence of those devices, you mentioned when the last person's leave, we lock, come back, it opens. If somebody lifts that phone during the day, like let's say you've got a kind of devious kid who knows that that's the way it works, and let's say they've played hooky and they know where your kid leaves the phone and they know the family's all gone, will an undetected taken phone allow a person straight in? And I understand that's a huge risk.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So if someone steals your phone, just like if someone steals the keys to your house, they could get into the house. I mean, I think technology has some advantages over the offline keys in that you can quickly call AT&T or T-Mobile and turn off your phone, right? You can disable it. If you have an iPhone, you can use Apple's Find My Phone.
All right, cool. This should be the last one.
So specifically to our app, we allow you to control which devices are able to disarm and disarm the system. So yes, if you lost your phone, you could quickly go in and disable that phone's ability to unlock the system, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am told we are unfortunately out of time because they would like to set up some really cool robots up here, and we certainly don't want to get in the way of that. But we're all going to exit stage, whatever this way is, and hang out for a couple minutes if anyone else wants to chat. So thank you all for listening to us.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you to this fantastic panel. And I hope you have a good rest of the CES week.